Welcome back, everyone. I'm Carrington-Russell, Australian award-winning author of Kick Butt Heroines and Delicious Men in Dark Romantic Worlds. And I have a very special guest for you today. We are talking to a USA Today best-selling author who is known for her feel-good, emotional, and angsty romance. We are talking to the one and only Willow Aster. How are you today?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm really good. I am a lot better now that you're on here because I just really want to deep dive into what's it been almost 11 years now that you've been writing and publishing for since 2013?
Since 2013, yep, a long time. And I was writing a long time before that, so it feels like forever.
Well, let's discuss that then. I'd love to know how you even got into the self-publishing industry. So yeah, take me back to the start then.
Well, the start is me writing angsty poems as a kid. And then I got my first query rejection in 2002. So a long time ago. And it was justified. It sucked. But I kept going. And 2012, no, 2011, I think, or maybe even a little before that, I was on a Facebook group and I saw, it was actually a famous author. I won't say whose name because I didn't end up staying on her page. That is beside the point. Anyway, there was a request for writers who wanted to be part of a writer group, and I joined it. And Taryn Fisher was in that group, and there were also five other people, but Taryn and I hit it off right away, and just yeah, became instant friends, and yeah, and so she was reading my book that ended up being the second one I released, and I was reading her first book, The Opportunist, and we both just encouraged each other to go for it. And she got hers out before I did. And then, yeah, February 2013, I released mine. And yeah, it's been just been going strong ever since. I was attracted to indie publishing, partly because I didn't want to go through more rejections, but also just the freedom you have to write whatever you want and um, put it out quickly or take your time. It didn't matter. Now I'm more scheduled. So, but in the beginning, that's what drew me.
Congratulations on your publishing anniversary for February. Um,
Thank you.
It's a really different time, though, that we're in now. Comparing it to
Yes.
2013 when you first published, we never knew, obviously, it was going to become the business that it is now. And so it was fantastic when the opportunity was opened up for us to not have to constantly go through the traditional publishing route, to constantly receive those rejections, and to really have control over it. But I don't think any of us anticipated or knew what kind of beast that it would turn into. So, at what point when you were publishing did you really feel, wow, there's like a real demand for my books. I have a readership following me. This is a business and I'm an author. When was that snowball effect moment for you?
I was one of the lucky ones, I guess, in a way. It was lucky. At times I have wished it had been a little different because it skewed my vision of how it should go in the future. But my first book took off. It did amazing. And like my family and I would just sit and refresh on KDP and watch as it just was like growing and growing and growing. And that was surreal. That was the first moment. Like, I can't believe people are reading my books. They're buying my books. So it was so exciting. And then every release hasn't been quite the same as that one. It's been very much up and down, up and down, up and down. So yeah, um, it it was great in that I knew what was possible, and yet hard then when it didn't quite do the same thing every time. But I've gotten used to that more now.
I think that's what makes it tricky, and I do often hear this as well on here is that and it's incredible that it goes boom, and you're so overwhelmed as well. Like there's so much happening, and you're just like, okay, what do I do with this now? And I think, unfortunately, I've seen a second, and again, this is just personal opinion. I have seen a second wave for authors who started publishing during the pandemic period because there were so many readers
Mhm.
who were actually at home reading. And so now that we're kind of going back to sort of everyone's going back to their 9 to 5 situation, then there is a question as why aren't I doing as well? Why? And then you start changing, things have to start shifting. And so I'm curious as to whether there's been any moments in your career where you've really struggled or you've really started self downing like what you're doing or whether you're able to keep up with the demand and what the conversation that you had with yourself to be like, actually, this is who I am. And so I need to write it out and I need to keep going because I'm a baddie.
I love that. There have been many times like that. I've had to pivot, friends reference there, pivot, um, just to keep going. Because when I started, I wrote what I wanted to write. I didn't really try to follow the market or the trends or just, whatever I was passionate about. And I love that I have those passion projects, but I've had to shift that in a big way. And there was a stretch there when I was contemplating, because I have another pen name that I keep a secret, and that one was doing so much better than my books under this name. And so I was like, I might retire this name and just do that. But I was like, I'm gonna give it 2 series, do 5 book series for each one, see how that goes. If it doesn't work, then I'm gonna quit this one and just focus on another one or start another one completely because I realized that can be done. So yeah, this is the 3rd book in the 2nd series that just came out, and it's gone great. And so I'm not planning to retire this name anytime soon. We'll see. We'll see in how it goes. You just never know. As long as people are still reading me, though, I'm going to keep trying to write the books.
I kind of love your approach to this though, because I know that some people might pivot too quickly. Like they're like, oh, I can't see any potential in it, I'll leave. But also there is a lot to be said about your perseverance and saying, I'm going to give this the right amount of time and effort that it needs. I'm going to give it 2 5 book series, which is not an easy feat. That's a lot of time.
Right.
And that's a lot of money to invest as well. So I really love your approach to this. I do want to talk about actually your new release, Reckless Love, which, as you said, is the 3rd book in the series. So, was there any particular things that you had to change while writing this one? Was there something that you weren't expecting in the writing process or even in the book itself that you're like, huh, I was not expecting that?
um, well, I haven't said that I have a favorite book since 2013 until this book. And that threw me off because I just thought, okay, I don't have favorites except for that one. But I loved writing this book so much, and it's been a long time since I've had that excitement over. I've had many characters that I love. I love writing all of them, but some are really hard, some are. I just loved everything about writing this book, and I didn't see that coming, honestly, because I was worn out and needed to do it quickly. And yeah, so that's what surprised me.
I love that you had that because there's nothing worse than when you are writing a particular couple or a book, and it's not to say that it is not a fantastic book, but you're either too tired because we often burn ourselves out, or you just don't personally click with that couple. And I think people really undervalue that as well because we aren't always going to resonate with every single couple. There are going to be particular
Right.
ones that are like, oh, they're a little bit funnier or they're quirkier or whatever it may be. So,
Uh,
speaking of burnout, what is your approach on this? Because I imagine after having a very long career so far, you've probably hit it quite a few times. So what are the things that you put in place now to try and prevent that from happening?
I've burned out many times and I'm trying so hard to catch it before it gets to that point because there is a point of it just is disaster and I don't want that. So I'm trying to put more value in sleep. I have trouble sleeping, so I'm really trying to do everything I can to get that working and eating healthy and exercising and stopping and like watching a movie when it's not just flowing easily or reading a book, all the things that I kind of think, well, I've got to wait until I do 1,000 words before I can get up from this chair. And if it's just not coming, then I get up and go do something and then come back and see. I've also tried writing in different ways, like dictating or, um, yeah, dictating being the big one. So
And does
I
that
kind of
work for
had
you?
it did with the first book in this series and a lot of the second one. I got a concussion like right at the finish of the first one, at the end. So I kind of had to finish up that way, and then the second one, pretty much the whole thing was dictated, which was a learning curve. That's probably part of why I loved this one so much because I was back to writing, typing, I guess. But yeah, just to switch it up and make it feel, or writing in different areas of the house or
I
little
think
things like that.
I think there definitely becomes there's two things on this. One, a stagnation in our process. Like we know our process so well. And I do think it's important sometimes if we're feeling like we're ripping out teeth, which is often, to be honest, when we're coming closer to a burnout period. I'm
Yeah.
in the midst of burnout at the moment. So I'm just
Oh,
like,
I'm
let's talk
sorry.
about this. Yeah. It's like, as you
Yes.
were laughing, I was like, I feel you.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And what also blows my mind is how much this actually impacts our health. Because if we were standardly doing like a 9 to 5, yes, we may do a couple of extra hours here and there, but we're leaving at those times. In this
Right.
business, it is on us. And so, one thing that I've even noticed for myself is having to find alternative ways because I'm now noticing I'm having issues with my hands and my wrists and things like that from writing so much. Things that 10 years ago I would have never thought about. So, I
Mm.
really advocate now that we do look after our health because I think we just get so consumed in it. We want to push ourselves so forward. We want to provide readers with the books that they want and love. But there
Mm.
has to be some kind of discipline for ourselves to prioritize ourselves as well, or we won't be able to do it long term.
Right. You're so right. So, so right. And I feel like anytime you neglect one or more, and often, let's be honest, they're all being neglected when you're in a deadline or whatever, like I say I'm living like an animal. That's like my catchphrase for when I'm in the throes of trying to finish a book. I might, my hair is out to here and I need to wash it and I need a shower and I'm just, I haven't eaten. My husband has taken over the cooking because he knows wouldn't, I would eat junk in these times. But when it's all being neglected, then it's just a disaster waiting to happen. And the books are not going to be their best and not going to come when you want them to, and all
So,
the things, or you're going to get sick.
yeah.
It's like every time I push too hard, I end up getting sick. And it's like, it's just not worth it. I've got to start listening to myself, listening to my body, and make my brain work.
I love that we've been doing this for over 10 years. And yet we're still doing this. We're still learning the same lessons. So, guys, learn for us. Just
Yes.
take the advice.
Yes. Don't learn this the hard way because it's not fun.
It's definitely not fun. What is your writing process? Are you a plotter or a pantser? And how long does it roughly take you to write each book? Does it vary or you? you've got your clean cut process now?
I like to call myself a plantser. I've got a rough idea and I do plot some, especially like the next, I've got the round, the overarching idea of how I want it to go. But I try to focus on the next few chapters at a time instead of having it all laid out. Because if I lay it all out, I start to feel hemmed in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I prefer that way. And um, the time it takes has varied over the years, although I am faster now than I used to be. I would say I can usually be done in 2 months.
Yeah.
Some are more, some are less, but that's been kind of where it's gone. There have been books that have taken 4 months. There have been books that have taken 7 years. So I'm happy that I've practiced and read a ton about making it go faster. So I'm thankful that's gotten better.
I'd love to know then actually what are some of the like the resources or the groups or the even events, conferences, courses. What are the tools that have really helped you help your craft?
I think it was 2K to 10K or something like that by Chris Fox, I believe. Um, Forgive me if I got that wrong. Um, it helps me really to sprint, like set the timer for 20 minutes or 45 minutes. I do it with my author friends. I even do it with myself, and just practice getting more efficient there. Um, Dictating took a while to get used to that, but once I got better at it, that became a way to get a little faster too. So, yeah, and I've gone to all the conferences. They're great for the most part. You learn, even if you go and just learn one really great thing, it's worth it to me. And then the meeting people who are doing this same thing with you is always a plus.
I love writing sprints, and I think they are really impactful as well. As you said, you even do it when it's just yourself. And I really agree with this because one thing that I've recently in the last few months, and this might assist authors who are watching, is I'm actually tracking as well, like from 7:10 a.m. to, and then I finish this chapter at 7:50 a.m. or whatever, how many words I got. But the reason why
Mm-hmm.
I do that as well is for accountability because before I know it, I've dawdled off and I'm making a coffee, but then I'm also doing this or that. And then I come back and I'm like, oh, how has it already been an hour that I haven't been sitting at my desk writing? So I think sometimes those senses of accountability, as well as when we're writing, sprinting with other authors, we have access to that. We know exactly what we're doing. Whereas I feel I don't know if it's just a me thing when you're saying before how you look. I'm like, yeah, I refer to myself as a gremlin in those writing periods. So you just kind of lose track of what you're doing in your day to day.
It's true. Yeah, it does
How do you
help some.
find co-writing? Because you have written a series with Laura Pavlov. I really hope I'm pronouncing her last name correctly there. But how do you find that it differs? What is that unity like for you? And what advice do you have for authors who are thinking of co-writing as well?
I've co-written with Taryn Fisher first and then Laura Pavlov. And for both of those, you have to really trust each other and let the ego go. Because if you want to cut something or if something that you wrote is cut, it's just best to go with it. um, and trust the process and trust each other. So for both of those series, we would do it in Google Docs and just like we didn't have one POV as this person, one POV as the other person. We just both wrote both. So like sometimes even just pick up the sentence where it was hanging before and finish it like that. it got that um seamless sometimes. So I think because I knew both of them really well and trusted them, it worked, and I wouldn't want to do it with just anyone.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm
that's
kind of curious. I often say co-writing is like a marriage, because as you said, you do need to trust each other. You're obviously
yeah.
handling each other's money, and also there is an intuitive trust with the writing process as well, as you said. And I love that you said we have to drop the ego, because it is so important that we're just not debating on the small things as well. But
Mhm.
I think going into this, authors need to be aware and prepared that it's not just you. Like you have to be, to some extent, fluid. Like you have to be open to those suggestions as well.
Right.
When with your writing, as you said, you don't necessarily do two POVs. Does one person have the manuscript first, or somebody like writes to a couple of chapters and then the next person writes the next couple of chapters? Are you loosely plotting together, or are you pantsing? What's the process like in that aspect?
So for both of these, we would plot ahead of time and then kind of talk about what was coming up next too. And then like if I would go in the Google Doc and see Laura in there already, then I would move back, do a reread, um, or maybe just come back later. Like she's on a different time zone than I am, so I have 2 hours, I'm 2 hours ahead of her. So I could go in there in the morning and then she would see what I had read in the morning when she opened it up. And then later I would go back and kind of read what she had written. So I'd be prepared for the next day, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Um, and then like with Taryn, there would be times we would both be in there at the same time too. And yeah, just would like move to a scene that I knew I wanted to be in there and, put it in the future or something, and then try to move it when it came to be time. But normally we would be, I would kind of be editing while the other one was writing or vice versa.
Yeah, and no wonder then it became so seamless in that aspect as well, because your words are literally becoming like, it's just so beautiful. Absolutely love it. I want to talk about your podcast. So, Living in the Pages, you host. So, I would love to know more as to why you wanted to start that and what viewers can expect if they jump on over.
Aw, I don't actually do it anymore. I did it for 3 years and loved it. I at the time there weren't any that I knew of, any podcasts of indie authors. So I was like, I really want a way to talk about my friends' books and spread the word. And I met a lot of people and had so much fun. And I made them sing a song with me at the end every time, which was hilarious and fun.
One thing I really enjoy about this industry is that there can be such a give back mentality as well, because I think there's so many people or resources that have really helped us along the way. And I think you get to a point in your career where you're like, I surprisingly somehow have cultivated all this knowledge, or there I have a voice and I can share it. So then other, whether they be newer authors or authors who are just trying to level up. So I think it's really a beautiful thing that you did that. And I really want to watch the episodes now to watch everyone sing.
Well, it's just audio, so it's not even video, but yes. One of my favorites that was funny was Marnie Man. It was hilarious. There are others that are beautiful, and there are some that are hilarious, and hers was hilarious, and I adore her. So it was fun. And for a while, if I was having a bad day, I would go listen to that and just feel better.
Is she aware of this?
Yes. I would only say it if I had said it to her as well.
Out of 10, I love it. What some of the things? So obviously having a recent release, I'd love to know what your top three things are that you always have in place leading up to a release.
Well, I have a PR team and I've got two PAs too. So those are those are musts for me. And yeah, my brain has gone blank. My two PAs and my PR team, I guess, is the big ones.
But that's
Yeah.
huge because one thing I do want to discuss on here is delegation because there really does you come to a point where it's overwhelming. There's too much happening. I think especially after you've been doing it for a couple of years, you start identifying what your strengths and weaknesses are, or what are the things that just don't bring you joy or passion. So I'd love to know what your delegation journey has looked like and what it is for you personally that you were like, this does not bring me joy. I'm at a point where I actually can have um, a PA or two PAs, which is awesome. I'm like, I want to be you when I grow up. Um, what were the things that you shifted over to bring you more peace in your business and your role in it?
Well, I feel like my only strength is the writing, honestly. So, I needed help with a lot of things and was floundering with most of it. So, I needed ad help. I needed help with graphics. I needed help with formatting. I did format my stuff once Vellum came out. That was amazing when Vellum came out. Um, but but the time that it takes to do all that is just so much. And when you do back in the beginning, I would release less frequently. So I had more time to try to figure it out, whatever it was that I didn't know how to do. And now it's like I need to get it to the audio company months ahead of time. I need to, I'm trying to release every 3 months. So it's just, yeah, getting that turnaround. So I have help with all of that now, and it is amazing. Um, so yeah, I highly, highly recommend when you get a chance to do it. It makes such a difference.
And the thing is, too, is you don't have to assume immediately that you're going to be hiring somebody full time or part time. You can
Right.
start with an hour or two, and honestly, that
Yes.
hour or two can make all the difference. Whether it's that they're helping you with your newsletter or social
Mhm.
media posting or graphics, but you will find those things that once you do ever so slightly delegate it out, you will have a sigh of relief. So I do really, I'm like, yes, do these things.
Yes, the getting help with the newsletter was how I started because it was like I can write out the intro, but laying it out and making it pretty and all of that. Can you please do it? And so that was huge, a huge relief right off the bat. So yeah, highly recommend.
So good. I would love to talk about when you hit USA Today bestselling author. I would love to know where you were, how you found out, and most importantly, how you celebrated.
I hit it with my first book and I didn't even know that I had. Pauline Hoover messaged me on Facebook and said, "Oh my God, you hit USA Today." And I'm like, "What?" Um, I freaked out. I had no idea. I probably wouldn't have had any idea if she hadn't told me. Um, and yeah, I was just absolutely thrilled. And I hit it another time too and was thrilled that time. So yeah, just and I don't even remember what I did to celebrate. I probably danced around the house.
That's crazy that your first book, which, and honestly, it's so amazing, but no wonder it was so intense for you from the get-go to have and receive that type of recognition from, which is awesome. but so overwhelming as well. How did you go with writing the next book? Did you have a slight fear about like, oh, what if people don't like it for some reason, or what if it's not as what they expected? Did you have that reservation because you flew so high on the initial book?
Yes, and my next book didn't go well. Like um the first one was like a rock star romance, second chance romance, and the second one was set in the 70s, an interracial romance. And people did not react the same way to it. They loved it if they read it, but most of them didn't read it. So it was like I had gone into that thinking, well, they love this book. So, like, when I love an author, I read all their books. That's just me, though. And I didn't know that everyone else wasn't like that. So it was a huge, like, oh. Um, so yeah, and because I didn't quite stay in my lane like I should have, um, there are some people that have loved that about my books, that they're all different, but most people really, you want to know what you're getting into. And I feel like I've settled into that more now than I had been. So that's helped.
And I think it's quite common for a lot of authors to really find what their message is or what their theme is as well. And I do want to discuss this a little bit before you mention that you had a pen name. You don't have to say what the pen name is, but I am curious about your approach on this because some authors, such as yourself, who very much write multiple genres, they write whatever is, bring some joy at the time, a very similar writer as well. So sometimes when we have to stay in one lane or we choose to be in one lane because we can see the results and the rewards from it, it can get a
Mhm.
little bit angsty because we're like, oh,
Yeah.
what about that very random side quest that I want to go on? So
Yes.
what side, instead of having it all under your name, was it the branding aspect? So it would be easier to then have, say, one pen name or multiple pen names for different genres. Is that why you made that decision?
So there was a series that I kind of branched out on under Willow
Yeah.
Aster, and it did not go well. And I felt like people don't want to see that from me, specifically me. Like at that point, I had been publishing for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. And I did man covers, and they were the first one, it was enemies to lovers, and he was really a jerk. And it just, like, reading all the reviews, like, some people liked it, but most people was like, it was too because I'm too nice for that. um so I thought, if I want to write anything that has, you know that, like a bully romance or really true enemies to lovers, I need to do it where they don't know who I am and can take it. So yeah, that's
That
what I
makes
did.
sense as well. And I kind of like the fact that you did try it under your name and then you recognize that pretty quickly and then you're like, pivot,
Mhm.
pivot.
Yep. Yep. Well, that was a 4 book series, so it was a bitter disappointment. But yeah, I did learn from that. I wished I had published it under the other name, because I think it would have done well.
Have you ever thought about potentially somehow adjust? Oh, actually, no, because then it might be too close. People might figure out. Yeah, okay. I take it back. I take it back. What do you think has been the most surprising thing that you found within this industry that you weren't expecting?
Some of those things I mentioned, like the one about people don't just follow whatever you write necessarily. That's the dream, but
Yeah.
a lot of authors don't have that luxury. Some do, but most don't. That was that was a big thing I learned. The other, I like to lay low from the drama
Yeah.
at all times. So, that can sometimes take work to do that. But it's an ever, I'm always going to be trying to do that. And, I love how giving and loving the book community can be so, so much. And when I see any kind of shift in that, then I just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna surround myself by peaceful things.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I do want to briefly discuss on this because by the sounds of it, neither of us are drama llamas. I love the word drama llama. But because the industry has, I feel like a veteran when I say it. I'm like, it's changed so much over the last decade, but it really has.
It
And
has, yep.
we're so accessible now, and what it is now is not what it was 10 years ago. Like everything I felt was a very organic reach. You were connecting with readers,
Mhm.
and now, well and truly, as authors, we do have a responsibility to a degree because we are on a platform. People can see what we post, they can see what we share, and I just, I mean, for me, social media, I'm on social media a lot. I would rather not be, to be honest, but it is
Mhm.
the way that our business is going now. We depend on it so much, and this isn't for every author, but I also try to stay away from a lot of that because it's just there's always going to be something, and I couldn't
Yeah.
imagine exhausting my time or my efforts on something that may not actually impact me directly as well, when
Right.
usually there's about 20 other books I have to write. So
Yeah, there is work to be done.
there, there is work to be done. I think that'll be the title for there is work to be done. I also think it's important to know who you're surrounding yourself with as well, because, we always call it a tribe here, but over the years, you do collect those people who have similar values in you. You have the women or men as well who are climbing and they're pursuing their goals, and that's a really good table to sit at. It's really nice. So I would just,
Yes.
I mean, I this is just my perspective when it comes to just life in general, but just be
Mhm.
selective on who you choose to have as your ride or dies, because I think it can impact you greatly as well.
So much. Yes. So, so much. I know I need positive and, and yeah, it shifts when you've done it this long, as we're saying, that and people that started out with us aren't doing it anymore. So that changes everything too. But yeah, it's important who you surround yourself with. Absolutely.
And I actually want to touch on that too, because perhaps it's not discussed enough, or especially for those who are watching this and they're only just starting out. And I know we discuss burnout a lot and stuff on here, but burnout is a real thing, and it is one factor that can actually derail somebody's entire career. And I've
Mhm.
seen it on many accounts. As you said, there are so many authors who started with us in 2013, 2014, and they're not here anymore. And personal things come up, of course, but this career is not for the faint-hearted. And so I do try to approach it with a realistic expectation as well, that this will always be a very um, intense career choice. There will be many highs and lows. And if you do want to make profit, and if you do want to build this as a business, there are a lot of time to be invested and a lot of lessons to be had. So not everyone has that, and that's okay as well. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I've seen a lot of people actually. It makes me like, oh, back in my day. What what would you say has been your greatest challenge and your greatest achievement so far in your writing career for you personally?
My greatest achievement would be that anyone is still reading my books because I'm just so grateful for that. The biggest challenge I would say is to know when to pivot. I'm sorry I've said that word so much, but it's been key in my career because I love writing and I know that if I didn't, I wouldn't be up for this job because it's so vulnerable. It's such a vulnerable profession to be in and to pour yourself out and see what everyone thinks about it. It's for this little introvert, it's really hard. It's hard for everybody, but yeah, I love the writing. So I'm still here and just knowing how to keep making it work is probably going to be an ongoing challenge forever.
Yeah. So you have to keep pivoting. I can't
Yeah.
get it out of my head now, like pivot. What is the big dream that you're chasing? What is the big goal that you want for your writing career?
I mean, I would love financial freedom. Goodness. I'd love to be able to pay my kids' college off. um, New York Times bestseller would be really lovely. But truthfully, just to have a long-term career doing what I love, that's my goal. That's my dream, is to just keep writing books and keep hopefully people wanting to read them.
Yeah, I love that. But yes, we want all the other things as well.
Other things would be nice too.
Now, I do have a segment called Speed Dating with an Author. So I've lit a candle, I've created ambience, I even have flowers today. Um,
Love
basically, what it is 5 rapid questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
What is the most clumsiest moment that you've ever had?
Oh, I'm really clumsy. So I used to play the piano in church, and one time on my way to the piano, I fell out the side door. Down the stairs too, but and then made it in time to play the song. But
Well, you still performed?
yeah, oh yeah.
Fun. Wow, that's impressive.
Uh,
What are the 3 words that best describe you?
mm, warm, kind, and quirky.
I love those. Is the song that best describes you?
I love Imagine by John Lennon, and I love the words to that song, and if only I if we had a world like that, right?
Yeah, I really like that. Who has been your favorite character to write and why? And you can only choose one.
Oh, only one. I'm gonna say Rhodes. Um, he was just so fun, and I he strikes me so funny. I act like I know him very well. Yeah, I loved him.
Amazing. And what is a unique talent or skill set that you have that not a lot of people know about?
I won a whistling contest as a child and then had to whistle in front of thousands.
What? That's
I don't think I've
amazing.
ever shared that with the book world. I don't think
How
I
how does that transpire? Where was that at school or?
it was at a like a junior camp kind
Yeah.
of thing in the summer, and then yeah, and then I had to whistle like a couple weeks later at this big conference type thing. So yeah.
So random but cool. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm like, that is a unique story. I really love it. I have had so much fun having you on today. Thank you so much for joining us. And let us know, what do we need to be out on the lookout for next? And most importantly, where do we find you?
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so fun. And my next book will be out April 10th, I believe. And you can find me on my website, willowaster.com, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all the places.
All the places. I have had so, and who knows, maybe next year we'll get you back on and see where you're at, see if we've hit all the goals and the dreams yet.
That would be great.
I would love that. And again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right. Until next week, guys. Bye.